How do you get managers and senior managers to read important health and safety documents like risk assessments, policies, procedures, action plans, audit reports, and so on? How do you make sure that they don't just ignore it or sit on it? Well, I had a good chuckle to myself this morning, although it really isn't funny. Dominic Raab, who's our foreign minister, he got ripped apart in a parliamentary committee meeting yesterday because he had failed to read his own department's risk assessment on Afghanistan. So he sat there, and one of the MPs is reciting the risk assessment to him, which highlighted all of the risks of the Taliban taking over, the collapse of the Afghan army, the difficulties in evacuating everyone, and the ensuing humanitarian crisis. And Dominic Raab just asked, "What's the source of that?" And clearly he hadn't read the bloody thing. And I had a good chuckle to myself, not because that's funny, that's awful, but how many times has that happened to me when I've sent out an important safety document to a manager, a senior manager, and they haven't even bothered to open the email or open the attachment and read it? They fail to act on it generally, and it's so frustrating. And, we can defend Dominic, I suppose, if we wanted to. We can play devil's advocate. I'm sure he's a very busy man, lots of emails, lots of meetings, phone calls, probably works 7 days a week. But isn't that kind of true of a lot of managers in both public and private sector? Isn't this a problem that a lot of us have? Managers who are too busy to read the information we send them. So, well, what do we do? Well, I guess there was a realization I had in my career that my job isn't just about influencing. It's not just about persuading management to do things more safely. As hard as that is, your first challenge is just to get their attention. Just get their attention. How do you get them to listen? How do you get them to read the information you are sending them? So tip number one, I would say, is don't get them to read the information. Deliver it in person. Deliver it in person, go to their desk, arrange a meeting, go on a walk with them somewhere. When I say a walk, not out here in the countryside. I mean, go to the scene of the crime. Do a Gemba walk. Say, hey, done a risk assessment on this area. Why don't you meet me there at 2:00 and I'll just spend 10 minutes walking you through the key risks and the key controls we have to make sure stay in place. Go to where the risk assessment is applied to. If you can't do that, because maybe they're on a different site, maybe in a different country, well, try a telephone call. Give the person a call. Say, hey, hi, how are you doing? Have a little bit of a chit chat. This is an important tool for relationship building. You don't really build relationships by email very well. It's very hard to do that. So whenever possible, try and speak to people face to face or by phone or by Zoom or Teams or whatever. That's better than by email. Now, if you do have to communicate with people by email, then, well, what can you do? Well, here are a few tips. Don't just send an attachment saying, hey, risk assessment's attached, please have a look at it. Don't just do that. They won't read the attachment. Try summarizing the risk assessment very, very briefly in the email. And when I say briefly, it's like 2 or 3 lines. Maybe use some bold, some underlines, colors, that kind of thing, to draw attention to the key points. To say, right, okay, we've done the risk assessment. It's attached. Here are the key points. We have a high risk of this. We've got a risk of that. We've got to make sure this control measure is implemented by this date. We're in breach of the law unless we do this. I had an old boss, a managing director, who was a stickler for this. It's like, if you sent him a document that was more than 1 page long, he wouldn't read it. And we can criticize that and say it was the wrong thing to do, but the reality was that's what he did. If I sent him a risk assessment or any document that was more than 1 page long, didn't read it. So I had to send him summaries of everything, 1-page summaries. And then I soon realized that he didn't read the summaries if they were attached to the email. I had to put the summary in the email. So that was kind of annoying, but you soon learn by these mistakes. And then I realized that I kind of lost his attention once I got past 2 paragraphs. So I really had to make sure the main information went into paragraphs. I'll give you one final little tip if you're dealing with foreign countries. I used to have people working with me in India. We had a call center in India. I could never get the Indian call center managers to reply to my emails until one day I tried something really simple. Instead of saying hi in my email, I said Namaste. Namaste. And then I just wrote my email as normal. And you know what? They replied. And I started to use that on everything. We had a call center in Germany. It was like, Guten Tag, mein Freund. You know, we had people working with us in Russia. It was like, Zdravstvuyte, tabarich. Yeah, I just started to chuck in their own language, their own words, little cultural references to stuff that's going on in the news or whatever. You know, whatever I had to do to get them to open up my emails and act on them and reply to them. Once they got into the habit of opening my emails, you know, they built a habit of opening my emails. An email from Will dropped in, well, they tended to open it because they kind of expected something friendly and funny and all of that. This is all part of a bigger theme of not becoming known as the health and safety person. When you build relationships as a health and safety manager or advisor, you have to become known as you. You, an individual, you, a colleague, you, a team member, you, a friend. If they label you mentally as a health and safety person, you're just boring. You're someone with an agenda. You're someone who's going to give them jobs to do. So if you come across a little bit more friendly, use, and make references to their culture, their world, their reality, and try and find things that are in common and have a bit of a laugh and a joke with people. You'll find that really helps at getting your emails opened. And, well, can anyone send this video to the Foreign Office? It might work on Dominic.